Alright, so look at this little guy in the corner all talking and alive right now. This is absolutely nuts. Big shout out to Leaflit and everyone who helped her work on this. I am a complete virgin when it comes to animation and working with different assets for PNG/VTubing, and this was super simple and just honestly mind-blowing to put together. I wanted to just talk about my experience using this in a very basic sense, not meant to really be a tutorial. I know Leaflit had one on X/Twitter. Not sure if a YouTube one was out yet, but I'm sure other people who are much better at this than me will have, more in-depth tutorials. This is just meant to me to, showcase the basic functionality and how I put this, little thing together in the corner. Now, one thing you should definitely know before going in, and I want to stress too, all of Leaflit's work and this app are entirely free, but an important part of this app's functionality requires a Google Gemini API key at the very least. Maybe more advanced users can find a way around it, but you need it to generate the video to sort of make the magic happen. And that for Gemini does seem to be a premium feature. Luckily, it wasn't too bad to figure out. Just, a quick ask an AI or Google search. I found out, where to get an API key, how to add credits. I believe the lowest amount it let me add was $10, which wound up being plenty to put this whole thing together. That's even after fucking up with some growing pains in the beginning. And I believe I still have $2 or $3 left even. But yeah, back here, I can't speak as to how the AI generator works here. Like I said, you can't just use any PNG. And honestly, I'll go into the backstory of how this little guy came together, but I already had him, and I wasn't sure if it was going to work, just because I thought this whole thing would be restricted to more humanoid PNGs, but as you can see, my worries there were all for naught. It worked fine for the most part, besides the one generation where at the end I grew an extra set of arms for some reason. The part I'm going to have my cursor run over here on the video generator, these two things right here, those are probably the most important parts of this screen. If this is a fresh session, Leaflit will have placeholders here for a character description and an animation description. I wound up going with energetic teacher because I don't stream and my videos are mainly just me yapping, so I kind of wanted just some energetic talking. And for the speaking animation itself, I just used what Leaflit put in her tutorial. One other thing I should note is right here, because this was Leaflit, by default it was the character herself. And if you're trying to make a male character, it can get a little goofy with the video generations. Particularly, it would randomly give me very feminine eyelashes, which, wasn't really what I was going for. It wasn't every time, but I feel like that was a bit of a way to, not waste potential generations by changing that. And right here, I don't remember if these were the defaults. I just sort of changed them to what Leaflit had. And then right here, generate video. Doesn't take super long, but there is a little bit of a wait, maybe a minute or two. Oh, I just noticed that on the top, so you can just sort of input a video here. So yeah, maybe if you find a free tool to put together, a similar animation that you see right here, then you can maybe bypass Gemini and do this for free. My one critique, I guess you can say, with this is that I do wish there was an option to not always start at frame 0. Like the original PNG I had much flatter arms and hands, and it was pretty difficult to put a loop together with it like that. So what I wound up doing was I took a screenshot from an older generation and made that the new default PNG. So once again, though, it would have been easier if you could maybe start at frame 2. I thought the ping pong, just going back and forth here, worked best for the animation, at least the one I was going for. I'm sure these other two have their purpose / use cases. And I should note reverse didn't swap, because I thought maybe it would, where, frame 0 would now be 179, and maybe I can cut the loop point at frame, 1 or 2 that I needed, but that was not the case. You can only set the loop point from the front. I guess even if she added it so you can set the loop front in accordance to the back, maybe too, could be a way to do that. Obviously, though, I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know if this is, easy to implement or possible. Just, a little something I noticed and an idea that can maybe make things easier if possible. Yeah, 'cause I hate even being mildly critical towards this, just because, it is a free tool that I'm very appreciative of. So I'm not going to lie, Model Exporter was a little scary, because right here it's like, oh no, is this image not going to work? Well, each time you go in here, you need to select key color, and then everything's all good. I don't know if that'll be an issue for every PNG, but then another thing too, if you click play to preview here, I guess seizure warning, but it will sort of, start flickering and just not looking right. Obviously, though, after I exported, it all looked perfect. I don't really know what that's all about. But yeah, you have a lot of options down here too. I mean, honestly, I didn't really mess with them. They seemed a little above what I was, willing to get into at this point. But hey, maybe down the line, or, more advanced users can, make their shit even better with some of this stuff. And then, just export your transparent motion. Just like the video prep export, it does take a minute or two. But after that, you're all set. And then I got to the harder part, which was finding out how to add this guy into OBS. Granted, now that I know how to do it, I feel stupid, but I just don't really mess around too much with it. I pretty much just had to add a media source, point to the video, resize, reposition, and set a hotkey to match my pause and resume recording hotkey. Perhaps not the ideal or even an intended use of this, but I just like how smooth this is, at least for my purposes. But I mean, I would like to eventually, I don't know, mess around, maybe have an angry talking animation or something, but that's for another time. And that's the only thing too. I don't know if there is a way to, make it smoothly transition from one to the other. Because, if you have a different animation, your starting point, if you're, cutting in the middle of the animation, even if you have the same starting frame, could look a little weird. But like I said, I just don't know if that's even possible. Like Leaflit said from the beginning, this is more to bridge the gap between PNG tubing and VTubing. So it just is what it is. I still just really like how much more lively it is from PNG tubing, and it has its own little charm to it. And once again, just shout out to Leaflit for, doing this. Like, I don't know, I always kind of thought it would be cool to, do this little mascot character here. But it's like I said, I have no idea how to do any of this. And where I don't, make controversial content, I just go on and on about all the games I've been playing recently, or I need to watch more anime. I know I've got a couple anime videos here too, but I just know how nuts people are, especially in the art community. And it's like, I don't know, you can see who I follow on X/Twitter. Obviously, by me even using this implies, I enjoy Leaflit's content. Don't agree with her with everything, but that's, completely normal. And I, have not shied away from AI either, so I don't want to, commission something and then someone decides to, follow police, and then it turns into a whole thing. And that's kind of just why I like doing what I do on my own without, relying on someone who, may want to make a stink about. But as I was saying, it's like, I was always really afraid to commission anything because it just seems like it's a big investment. And you hear all these horror stories. Like, I don't really make controversial content. I just like to go on and on about the video games I've been playing. And, occasional other topics, like I need to watch more anime. I've got a couple videos there, and I've even got a couple on AI. But maybe one day I'll want to dive into some deeper topics. And you hear all these horror stories of certain artists stepping out of line and creating, a whole issue for people because, they said something they didn't like, or they're following policing, like obviously me using this. Leaflit's a bit of a controversial figure, but I watch her content. I agree with a lot of the things she says, not all of it. But, some people can't handle that. And it just puts a lot of innocent people in bad positions. But yeah, I said at the end I was going to go over the little backstory with this little guy. So for those of you who don't know, which this is a really small channel, so it's probably anyone who sees this video, but I originally was branded as Super Smash World, which was never a name I really liked. It was just the first thing that came to mind when I was making, I forget what it even was. It was like my Steam or my Nintendo ID years and years ago. But then it was really bad for discoverability. Like if I researched myself in YouTube, I was getting a bunch of Super Smash Bros. Tournaments, so I abbreviated it to SS Bash World. But then I just had this random idea one night for this little mascot. Because growing up, I loved Towley from South Park, and me and my group from, high school and college would always be quoting Towley and calling each other towels, and I just thought the whole thing was a kind of fun, unique idea, a little, more personal with my background story. So I did create the base image of the towel myself on GIMP one day that I sort of made my profile picture everywhere when I rebranded. But then this little guy I put together like a month ago, because I was just sort of curious as to how it would look like. I kind of had it pictured in my head. So then, I ran it particularly through Gemini, and after, many iterations, this was sort of the best I came up with. But yeah, overall, I'm not sure how much I'm actually going to wind up using this thing, at least in the immediate future. This was, just kind of a more for fun experiment. Maybe if, I can, figure some of the expressions out. I don't even know if you can, sort of connect it to a camera and sort of read your expressions, or if it is more of a toggle, or if it could be either. Like I said, I want to experiment with it more, although I'm not sure. That could be a while away. I'm not sure when I'm going to have time to really do that. But yeah, for the immediate future, we'll see. It might just be more of hey, maybe I can somehow wrap my head to connect this character to whatever I'm talking about, or if I'm, just more in the mood to see this little guy doing his thing when I'm putting a video together, or if someone else wants to see him again.